Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about budget tips for Auxiliars de Conversacion in Spain. With only $800 a month, I'm able to live in a comfortable apartment, travel, eat a ton of food, and pay for my student loans. And at the end of each month, I still have money left over in my bank account. I'm currently living in Ubrique, Spain, and through living here and talking with other Auxiliars and through sheer trial and error, I've been able to stretch my budget extremely far. And if you're an auxiliar, I'm hoping that I'll be able to help you stretch yours as well. Let's begin. So my first tip is to get the cheapest rent possible. Now there are a bunch of different ways you can do that, but I think the most important are one, getting a roommate, because you're immediately cutting your rent in half. Or if you get multiple roommates, into thirds, which can just really save your budget. And it might be inconvenient to live with someone else sometimes, but I honestly enjoy living with my roommate, so I highly recommend you consider that instead of living alone if you're trying to really stretch your budget and make it do the most for you. And also, I think it's really important to visit multiple apartments before you actually settle on one. Because by visiting multiple apartments, you're not only seeing, getting a better lay of the land on what a reasonable price for rent is, but you'll also be able to negotiate better. So if you like an apartment, but it's more expensive, you can say, hey, I really like this one, but this other one's cheaper. Is there any way you can bring the price down? And that just having another apartment to negotiate the price of more expensive apartments down can really save your budget in the long term. Because if you're paying an extra $50 a month on rent, then if you're living here for 8 months, that's an extra $400, which is just a lot of money, especially when you're trying to take weekend trips. That's a full, really luxurious trip to Paris or Rome or Lisbon right there, just by negotiating the price down right when you get to Spain. Now with rent, I also wanted to say that don't settle for an apartment that you know you'll be miserable at. Because if you're living here, chances are you're going to be spending a ton of your time at your apartment just living and cooking and relaxing and sleeping. So if this super cheap apartment that you really want, because you only have to pay 100 euros a month, is super far away from your work and you have to commute really far and it's not a really good quality of an apartment. It's old, it's run down. Sometimes that money might be worth it. Sometimes. I don't think cheap is always better. Reyka and I have learned that lesson many times as we travel, where we try to get the cheapest Airbnb, but then we're super far away. It's super small. There are cockroaches. It's gross. And it's just not a fun time. So wherever you're getting your apartment, try to get really cheap, but also don't settle for something that you know you'll be unhappy with. It's finding that perfect balance. So on the scale of quality of apartment to price, you want to be up here. But if you're going to be miserable because something's cheap and pretty bad down here, then depending on what you value, it might be totally worth it to come way up here and pay the extra money for the quality of an apartment and for an apartment that's close by. I want to stress the close by part because I've heard of auxiliars that get an apartment that's an hour-and-a-half commute one way to their job where they work 4 hours and then they have to commute an hour-and-a-half back. And then, so they're spending 3 hours out of their day on transit. That sounds terrible. You're spending a ton of your day on transit, and the whole point of this job is that you have most of your time to chill and reflect and hang out with people. But if you're living super far away, then that'll just really ruin your experience. And the auxiliar that I heard did that, she ended up quitting in November, 2 months later after starting the job. So I think the bottom line in all this apartment stuff is just really put a lot of thought into where you're going. Remember that expensive will really drain your budget, but also cheap might not be worth it. My second tip is to come with savings, because once you come here as an auxiliar, you're going to have a ton of expenses right away and you don't get paid until the end of the first month. Or sometimes if stuff doesn't work, it can take 2 to 3 months to actually get your first paycheck. So when you come here, just be ready to pay for a couple €100 for that first month deposit, because you have to pay an extra month's rent usually wherever you sign your apartment. Also, you might have to cook for a whole month before getting paid. You're gonna have to buy school supplies and maybe some extra furniture for your apartment. So I think having a baseline of like 2,000, maybe 3,000 euros just to survive, just to make sure you're comfortable and safe once you're here before you actually need your paycheck. I think that's super important. And I know this really isn't a budget tip because it's like just bring extra money, but I think it's just so important that someone doesn't get stranded here waiting for that paycheck. My third tip today is to cook your meals. People with budget tips are always telling you to cook, and it's for a good reason. Because when you're going out, especially in Spain, it might seem like you're saving money when dishes are, with tapas, are like 2 euros, 3 euros. But in the long run, it's just not worth it. And you can get a ton of food at the grocery store for really cheap. But my favorite are the fruterias, which are these little like neighborhood shops that just sell fresh produce for really cheap. So go get those veggies, come back home, whip them up, and save a bunch of money on going out. So with all this, I don't mean to say don't go out ever. I just mean to say cook a lot of your meals at home and then go out when you are really excited about it. My fourth budget tip is to give private English lessons wherever you are. You can make crazy good money giving lessons. I was late to this game, but now I'm giving 2-hour lessons to 6 people, making 60 euros a week, which should equal about 240 euros a month, which just like really gives you a bunch more money on a monthly basis. That is a monthly weekend trip right there. That is like a ton of going out money, and it's not that much extra time. So I highly recommend that you consider giving English lessons while you're in Spain. My fifth budget tip is to just not travel all the time. Weekend trips will drain your budget. Reyka and I realized that. We went to Paris and Lisbon all in the same month, and that was so much money. It took up most of my paycheck for an entire month. So just by like really spreading it out and going to places you really want to go to, then you're still going to have enough money to live off. Also, I want to stress that like in Spain, there are a ton of places nearby that are worth visiting, and you can likely catch rides with the teachers at your school if you just ask to come along. For example, I've gotten a bunch of rides to Sevilla from Ubrique. I've gotten a ride to Arcos de la Frontera. I've gotten a bunch of people offering me rides because a lot of Spanish people will leave wherever they work on the weekends to go be with their family or their girlfriend or whatever. So it's just a cool way to like have a lot of quality time with a Spanish teacher. You can make friends, you can practice your Spanish, and you can save money on tickets and go see a cool place. My sixth tip is to get a travel credit card. Whenever you get a travel credit card, after you spend a certain amount of money, you get a big bonus points package, which you can directly use to buy flights. I actually have too much student loan debt to have qualified for these. I have applied, but I think if you think you could get one of these cards, it's totally worth it because for everything you buy, you're able to spend these points that you rack up on travel. And I think of it as just free travel because you're spending the money you would already be spending, and then you're just getting points because of it. To know which travel credit card to get, it can be really confusing, but I've found the website, The Points Guy, really helpful. He just has spent his like entire career analyzing different points packages for credit cards. So to find the best one for you, I recommend going to his website and really exploring his like top 10 travel credit card lists. My seventh tip today is to get a Charles Schwab debit card before you come to Spain. When you get here, you're gonna be withdrawing a lot of money, and often with your debit card, it'll have fees and it won't give you the right exchange rate, but Charles Schwab refunds all ATM fees at the end of each month, and it gives you the most current exchange rates. So it really just like stretches your money as far as it can go in a foreign country, which is really awesome and something that not all debit cards do. Also, once you get here as an auxiliar, it does take a bit to get your bank account set up. So just having a way that you can withdraw money and not pay a bunch of extra money to get that money whenever you need it is just a really good way to stretch your dollars and stretch your euros once you get here. Anyways, thanks everyone for watching this video. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like. And if you want to follow along on Reyka and I's journey trying to travel around the world, hit that subscribe button. Thanks y'all, goodbye.